I run marketing at Utexo, and since there's only two of you, I'm just going to ask, did you use USDT before 2017? Do you remember using USDT before 2017? Well, if you did, then you know that it was on the Bitcoin network through OmniLayer. And today I want to talk about why USDT left Bitcoin, what we gave up when it did, and why it's coming home. So I think surprising to some people is that stablecoins didn't start on Ethereum, they didn't start on Tron, they started right here on Bitcoin. And the very first sort of stablecoin most people don't talk about was a BTC E-code issued by the BTC E-exchange. And BTC E-codes were sort of like prepaid vouchers that were used to transfer fiat between users on the BTC E-exchange. So it was primarily used for moving funds quickly while minimizing exchange conversion fees. Then in 2014, Tether took that idea and made it interoperable, and they issued USDT on OmniLayer on top of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was the main chain at the time and liquidity was there and everything, so that's why they were there. And it worked for a while. Adoption was small but steady, maybe 500 million in circulation. Mostly OGs, mostly traders. And it had about a 30 to 60 minute settlement time, which was fine at the time. And it was okay for most use cases that USDT had back then. But Tether didn't want to be a stablecoin for traders. They wanted to be a payments company. And once you start thinking about payments, 30 to 60 minute settlement times just don't cut it. So they moved. So Tether took USDT first to Ethereum in 2014, then to Tron. And if you've been along round enough, you remember that every migration, there was a bit of grumbling and rumbling around it. You had to pay gas, you had to switch chains. But it was, at the time, better than Bitcoin because it was faster. We swapped Bitcoin's settlement guarantees for faster blocks on new chains. But we accepted custody risk, bridge risk, validator risk, and so on. And the underlying asset, the dollar value, is what we cared about. But it was now sitting on infrastructure that it wasn't sitting on Bitcoin's infrastructure, and it didn't have any of Bitcoin's properties that we all know and love. But we did it because we had to. There was no other option. Now fast forward to today, and stablecoins are over a $300 billion market cap. They're settling more value than PayPal. In some quarters, they're settling more value than Visa. They're used for cross-border remittances, B2B, payroll, e-commerce, you name it. Stablecoins are becoming the default rail for moving money around the world. It's no longer just a crypto-native phenomenon. This is a global payments infrastructure. But the question is, do stablecoins behave like money? Or are they behaving like something else? Because real money, the kind that you and I use every day, has two non-negotiable properties. And stablecoins, as they exist on most chains today, don't have either of those properties. So when you tap a card at the coffee shop, if you go to buy something in a store, you take two things completely for granted. Number one is that you know how much it's going to cost as you pay for it. So not just the price of the product you're buying, but the fees that are associated with it. The fee is fixed, so the receiver gets a clean number. And then two is privacy. Nobody besides your bank knows what you bought, when you bought it, who you paid, how much you paid for it, etc. In stablecoin payments on the chains like Solana, Tron, and Ethereum, they don't behave like that today. So privacy, I mean, on a public ledger, every transaction you've ever made is sitting in a database. Anyone can query it. They can see, salaries, payments, your rent, who paid, when you paid them. And people will say, well, it's just an address, it's pseudo-anonymous. But the moment you connect a wallet to a centralized exchange or you want to off-ramp, your identity can be leaked. And the moment chain analysis software does what it's been doing for years, your identity is linked to an address. Especially now in an era of AI, you can just put a public ledger into AI and it can infer who the people were behind it. Second is the cost. So this is surprising to some people. On most chains, transaction fees are an auction. So the more demand, the higher the fee. If you have sent USDT on Tron, you know this is the case. When there's an NFT mint, when there's a meme coin pump, when there's a fee spike, the fees are spiking. And if you're a payment operator, this is a nightmare. You can't quote a fee to a merchant in advance. You can't price your product properly. So imagine that you're selling coffee, and when someone taps to use their card, you don't know if you're going to be paying 2% of the fee, 5%, 10%. And that's what it's like to transact with stablecoins on Tron and Ethereum. That's why it's important we get stablecoins back to Bitcoin. The more volatile your costs are, the less you behave like a payments business and more like a commodity trader. Which brings us back to where we started. So Bitcoin has always been the right home for stablecoins. It has the most secure base layer in the world, more than $2 trillion in security, 13 plus years of uptime, and it's completely neutral. No foundation pushing a roadmap, no chain politics, no validated cartel deciding who gets prioritized. But what was missing is that Bitcoin needed a complete payment stack. Lightning was supposed to be that stack, and to be fair, Lightning is incredible technology. Programmable payment channels, near infinite throughput, instant settlement, it really is an engineering marvel. But Lightning alone didn't bring stablecoins back to Bitcoin. And you may ask why. It's because people don't want to spend Bitcoin. Bitcoiners want to hodl Bitcoin. Normies might not even have Bitcoin at all. What people actually want to spend is dollars, euros, stable dollars, etc. So Lightning is great, but we needed something on top of Lightning to get stablecoins back into Bitcoin. And that something is RGB. And on top of RGB protocol, we've built Utexo. So Utexo is the execution layer for USDT on Bitcoin. It's RGB plus Lightning packaged as one API, one SDK, one piece of cloud infrastructure that any wallet, exchange, or fintech can integrate in days, not quarters. The way to think about it is this. RGB protocol lets you issue USDT on Bitcoin without spamming the chain. So those asset states move peer-to-peer between wallets with cryptographic proofs. The chain just anchors it. So that keeps the assets light and it keeps Bitcoin clean. And when the assets are light, you can run them through Lightning Network, which means you get the throughput of Lightning, which, as I said earlier, is very, very fast. And by moving assets off-chain, RGB removes the block space auction entirely. So there's no bidding war for the next block. There's no fee market driving your costs when there's a NFT mint or something like that, like you might have on Ethereum. And the costs are configurable. So operators decide what to charge their users, not the network, not the validators, not the miners, but the operator. And this is a massive unlock. That single change solves problems that made USDT leave Bitcoin in the first place. So if you're a wallet, for example, trying to grow, if you use a solution like Utexo, then because it's instant, free, and private, you can offer free transactions, let's say, for your customers for the first 30 days, which is a great onboarding promotional material. If you're a payroll company moving USDT to gig workers, you can quote a flat fee per payment for the entire year and actually keep that promise. If you're an exchange, you can subsidize withdrawals for new users without burning your treasury. You can build payments businesses on top of this with predictable margins. And that's definitely something you can't do on Tron, Ethereum, Solana, or elsewhere. Only possible on Bitcoin. And the second order effect is that once an operator is offering predictable, fast, private USDT payments on Bitcoin, the next operator has to match. And then the one after that and the one after that. So the liquidity flows in, wallets integrate, exchanges plug in, payment processors route through us. And therefore, Utexo becomes the flywheel for the whole USDT economy on Bitcoin. And we're not building this just for humans. We are building this for machines too. So agentic payments are coming faster than most people realize. We just joined the X402 Foundation, Coinbase's API for allowing agentic payments. Agents are now transacting on behalf of businesses, settling micropayments for inference, paying APIs by the call, and those flows need the same thing that humans do: speed, privacy, predictable cost, just at 1,000 times the volume. And Utexo is built for all of those things. And none of this happens in a vacuum. So we've been working with Tether on RGB for years. And earlier this year, Tether co-led our $7.5 million seed round alongside Franklin Templeton and a strong group of strategic investors. So USDT is finally coming back home to Bitcoin. And here's what I want to leave you with. Stablecoins left Bitcoin to become competitive, and they're coming back for the exact same reason: speed, privacy, predictable cost. Speed, privacy, predictable cost. Bitcoin is the only chain that can offer all three of those. And it's on a base layer that no one can shut down. So thank you. And if you're building a wallet, an exchange, you're a payments operator, and you want to integrate with us, just come find me afterwards. Thank you.